There are certain jobs that teach you how silence actually sounds. Not quiet. Silence. The kind that presses against your ears until you can hear your own blood moving through your skull. The kind where your breathing becomes the loudest thing in the room, and you start to wonder whether breathing was always this loud, or whether something about the emptiness is amplifying it. I learned that working nights at the Kessler Building. 13 floors of corporate offices, insurance firms, a few law practices on the upper levels, and a dental clinic on the second floor that always smelled faintly of mint and rubber, even at 2 in the morning. During the day, the building held somewhere around 900 people. Phones ringing, printers humming, the constant murmur of fluorescent lights competing with conversation. Footsteps everywhere, all the time, layered on top of each other like static. At night, the building held one person. That was me, David Renner, 41 years old, 12 years on the night shift, and perfectly fine with the solitude. More than fine. I preferred it. Always had. Some people need other people the way they need water. I was never one of them. I like the rhythm of an empty building. Check the boiler at 10. Walk the floors at midnight. Reset the HVAC system at 2. Run the elevator diagnostic at 3. Log everything. Go home at 6. The building and I had an understanding. I took care of it, and it left me alone. That changed on a Tuesday. I was in the basement running the weekly elevator diagnostic. The Kessler Building had 2 elevators, one for the east wing, one for the west. Both original to the building, both older than I was, both functioning within normal parameters every single week. I'd tested them for the past 12 years. The diagnostic runs automatically. I just sit at the panel in the basement and watch the numbers scroll while the car cycles through every floor. Basement. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 13, then back down. Takes about 4 minutes. I've seen it hundreds of times, maybe 1,000. It's the most predictable thing in my life, and I mean that as a compliment. That Tuesday, the east elevator did something it had never done before. The counter on the panel climbed past 13, and it kept going. 14. That should have been the end of it. Write it down. Call the expert. Wait for the fix. That's how problems work when they're problems. When they're just machines doing machine things. But the next night, Thursday, something changed. I was on the 9th floor replacing a ballast in a flickering fluorescent light. One of those small, tedious jobs that takes 20 minutes and requires you to stand on a stepladder in an empty hallway, holding a screwdriver between your teeth while you wrestle with a ceiling panel. I was halfway through the job when I heard the east elevator arrive on my floor. I hadn't called it. No one had called it. The building was empty except for me. I was the only living person in a 13-story building, and I had not pressed any button, and the elevator had come to find me anyway. I climbed down from the ladder. I walked to the elevator bank and stood there, watching the display above the doors. The number said 9, my floor. Then it started climbing. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The car stopped. I could hear it through the doors. The faint mechanical sigh of an elevator settling into position. That sound I'd heard 1,000 times on 1,000 floors. But this time it was coming from above the building, from a place that the blueprints say is empty air. Then silence. Not the building breathing kind of silence I was used to. A different silence. Heavier. The kind that feels like something is listening from the other side of a door. I stood there for nearly a minute, not moving, barely breathing, just listening to the silence listen back. Then the car descended. The number dropped. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. The doors opened. The elevator was empty, but the air that came out of it was wrong. It was cold, not air-conditioned cold, not the crisp recycled cold of a climate-controlled building. This was different. This was the cold of a room that hasn't been opened in a very long time. Years, maybe decades. The kind of cold that settles into a space when nothing moves through it, when no one breathes in it, when the air itself forgets it's supposed to be warm. And there was a smell, faint, like old paper, and something metallic underneath it. Something I couldn't name, but recognized the way you recognize a song from your childhood. Not the melody, just the feeling it gives you. I didn't get in. I stepped back from the doors and watched them close. Then I took the stairs down to the basement and wrote in the log. East elevator. Unsolicited stop at floor 14. No call registered. Car empty on return. Air temperature notably lower than building ambient. Odor detected. Unidentified. Metallic. Possible mold or mechanical lubricant. I underlined unsolicited 3 times. Then I sat there for a while, in the basement, under the fluorescent lights, listening to the building breathe. And I thought about calling the elevator company again. But what would I say? The elevator came to me on its own, and when the doors opened, it smelled like a memory I can't place. Ray would love that. Friday night, I brought a camera. Not because I believed something was happening. I want to be clear about that. I brought the camera because I wanted footage for the elevator company. Evidence of a malfunction. Proof that their equipment was doing things equipment shouldn't do. I set the camera on a tripod in front of the east elevator on the 13th floor, aimed directly at the doors, and let it record. I went down to the basement to monitor the panel. At 1:47 a.m., the elevator went to 13 on its own. I watched the number on the basement panel. The car sat on 13 for 20 seconds. I could imagine the doors opening upstairs, the camera recording. Then the number changed. 14. It stayed for 31 seconds this time. I counted every one. 31 seconds in a place that doesn't exist. Then it came back down. I rode the west elevator up to 13 to check the camera. The footage showed exactly what I expected and nothing I was prepared for. The elevator doors opening on 13, unprompted, uncalled. The car sitting there, empty, lit by the same yellowish fluorescent glow as every other floor. The doors staying open for about 2 seconds, then closing. And then, on the display above the doors, clearly visible in the camera's frame, the number changing from 13 to 14. A number that has no corresponding button inside the car. A floor with no physical space to exist. I watched the clip 9 times. On the 10th viewing, I noticed something I'd missed. Something that made me lean so close to the camera's screen that my nose nearly touched it. In those 2 seconds when the doors were open, just before they closed, there was a reflection in the back wall of the elevator car. The polished metal wall acted like a dim mirror, and in it I could see something that wasn't the 13th floor hallway behind the camera. It was a different hallway, darker, longer, with doors on both sides that didn't match any floor plan I had ever seen in 12 years of working this building. I paused the video and zoomed in as far as the resolution would allow. The image was grainy, indistinct, smeared by motion and low light. But I could see door frames, a carpet, a ceiling with fluorescent fixtures, a hallway that looked like every other hallway in the Kessler building, except it wasn't in the Kessler building. I couldn't be certain of anything from that footage, but I was certain anyway. The elevator technician came out on Monday. His name wasn't Ray. It was a younger guy named Marcus who wore clean coveralls and had the kind of confidence that comes from never having encountered a problem he couldn't explain. He ran his own diagnostics, checked the relay boards, tested the sensors, inspected the encoder, the floor counter, the cable tension, the shaft alignment. Everything came back normal. 13 floors. No anomalies. No glitches. No stuck relays. Panel's fine, he said, closing his toolbox. Could have been a power fluctuation. These old systems are temperamental. There was that word again. Temperamental. The word that means nothing. I showed him the video. He watched it once, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. When it was over, he shrugged. Said it was probably a display error combined with a weird camera angle. Said the reflection could be anything. Light bounce, lens distortion, a smudge on the elevator wall. He left at noon. Didn't even take the stairs. Rode the east elevator down like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. I stood in the lobby for a long time after he left, looking at the elevator doors, thinking about how easy it is to explain things away when you don't have to be here at night. When you don't have to stand alone on the 13th floor and feel the car moving above you into a space that shouldn't hold anything but air. That night, Monday night, I did something I've been telling myself I wouldn't do. I got in the east elevator on the ground floor. I pressed 13. The car climbed. I watched the numbers change, 1 through 12, each one accompanied by the small mechanical sounds I knew by heart. The car reached 13. The doors opened. I didn't get out. I stood in the elevator and waited. The doors closed. The car was still. I could hear the cables above me, taut and quiet, holding the car in place. I watched the panel inside the car. The numbers. The row of buttons, 1 through 13, basement at the bottom, alarm button at the very bottom. 13. Just 13. Nothing else. I waited for 3 minutes. Maybe 4. The elevator didn't move. The panel didn't change. I was about to press the lobby button and give up when the light behind the number 13 flickered. Just once. A quick blink, like the bulb was dying. And then I saw it. A new button had appeared on the panel, below the alarm button, in a space where there had never been a button before. It was small, round, black, no label, no number, no marking of any kind. Just a button that existed in a place where 30 seconds ago there had been nothing but brushed metal. My hand was 6 inches from it. I could feel something coming off of it. Not heat, not cold, but a kind of pull. Like the button wanted to be pressed. Like it had been waiting for exactly this moment, for exactly this hand. I didn't press it. I pulled my hand back, hit the lobby button, and rode down to the ground floor. My hands were shaking, but I told myself it was the coffee. Too much coffee, too little sleep, too many nights alone in an empty building letting my imagination turn sensor glitches into ghost stories. I wrote in the log. Interior panel anomaly. Unmarked button appeared on east elevator car panel. No floor designation. Duration. Unknown. Did not activate. Recommend full panel inspection. I went home at 6. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about that button. About the pull I'd felt. About how it had appeared exactly when I was alone and watching, as if the elevator knew it had an audience. Tuesday night, the button was there again. I got in the elevator on the ground floor. Press 13. Rode up. The doors opened and closed. And there was, small, round, black, unlabeled, waiting in the same spot. Waiting for me. This time I pressed it. Nothing happened at first. The button depressed under my thumb with a soft click, the same mechanical click as every other button in the car. I stood there, finger still on it, waiting. 1 second. 2. 3. The elevator didn't move. The lights didn't change. I almost laughed. Almost. I was about to pull my hand away when I felt it. A vibration. Not in the button, in the floor, in the walls, in the air itself. A low, deep hum that I felt in my teeth before I heard it with my ears. The kind of vibration that doesn't come from machinery. The kind that comes from something much larger than a machine deciding to move. The elevator climbed past 13. I felt it in my body, the subtle shift in momentum, the cables engaging above me, the car pulling upward into space my brain kept insisting was empty. I grabbed a handrail. The panel displayed 14. The number was steady, not flickering, not glitching, solid, certain, as if it had always been there, and I'd simply never looked at the right moment. The car slowed. I could feel the deceleration in my knees, the same gentle braking that happens on every floor, the same mechanical courtesy of an elevator easing into position rather than stopping hard. Whatever floor 14 was, the elevator knew how to arrive there. It had done this before, many times. The motion was practiced. Routine. The car settled. Stop. And for a moment, maybe 2 seconds, maybe 3, there was absolute silence. Not building silence. Not nighttime silence. The silence of a threshold. The silence that exists in the space between one place and another, before the door opens and you find out which side you're actually on. And the doors opened. The first thing I noticed was the light. It was the same fluorescent glow as every other floor, but dimmer. Yellower. Like the tubes hadn't been changed in years, maybe decades. They buzzed at a frequency I'd never heard before. Lower. Almost like a voice murmuring, just below the range of comprehension. It was a hallway. The same hallway I'd glimpsed in the camera reflection, but real now, solid, three-dimensional, stretching out before me under fluorescent lights that buzzed at a slightly different frequency than the ones on every other floor. The ceiling tiles were the same beige as the rest of the building. The carpet was the same industrial gray, but everything was older, yellowed, worn in a way that suggested not just years but decades of use. Decades of people walking this hallway, opening these doors, working in these offices. But the building is only 53 years old, and this floor, this impossible, non-existent floor, looked like it had been here for much longer than that. The air was different, heavy and still, like the air in a sealed room. No ventilation, no circulation, just dead, heavy air that tasted faintly of dust and old paper and that same metallic smell I'd noticed before. And the silence. The silence was absolute. Not building silence. Not nighttime silence. This was the silence of a place that sound has forgotten. A place where no voice has spoken in so long that the air itself has stopped expecting it. I stepped out of the elevator. The hallway stretched in both directions, much longer than any floor in the Kessler building. On the floors below, a hallway runs maybe 100 feet from the elevator bank to the stairwell at the far end. This hallway, I couldn't see the end of it. In either direction, it just went on, door after door after door, disappearing into a point where the fluorescent lights blurred together. I stood still for a moment, listening. Nothing. No ventilation hum. No pipe sounds. No building breathing. Just the buzz of the lights and the sound of my own heartbeat, which I could hear clearly because there was nothing else to compete with it. I looked back at the elevator. The doors were still open. The warm light inside the car spilled out onto the old carpet like a rectangle of safety. I thought about getting back in. I thought about pressing the lobby button and writing down and writing this in the log as another anomaly. Another entry for the technician to shrug at. But I didn't. I turned left and walked. My footsteps were soft on the old carpet, soft but audible, too loud in the silence, echoing slightly off the walls in a way that made it sound like there were two people walking instead of one. I kept checking over my shoulder. No one was there. Just the hallway, stretching back toward the elevator, the open doors getting smaller with distance. The doors on both sides were closed. Each one had a frosted glass window, the old-fashioned kind, with wire mesh embedded in the glass, and a small nameplate. I read them as I passed. Names I didn't recognize. R. Kellerman, Finance. S.U. Administration. M. Drake, Records. Names from a company that, as far as I knew, had never occupied this building. Names of people who worked on a floor that doesn't exist. Some of the offices had light behind the frosted glass. Not bright, just a faint glow, like a desk lamp left on. I pressed my face to one of the windows and tried to see inside. The glass was too thick, the frost too heavy. I could make out shapes, a desk, maybe a chair, but nothing specific. Nothing alive. I kept walking. Past 10 doors. 20. More than any floor should have. The hallway wasn't just long, it was wrong. The proportions were off. The ceiling was slightly lower than on the other floors. The walls were slightly closer together. Not enough to feel claustrophobic. Just enough to feel like the building was leaning in, listening. And then I reached a door that made me stop. The nameplate read, D. Renner, Maintenance. My name. My job title. I stood in front of that door for a long time. A minute, maybe two. My hand on the doorknob. Not turning it, just resting there. The metal was cold. Everything up here was cold. Not freezing, just abandoned cold. The temperature of a room where no one has turned on the heat in a very long time because no one has been here to need it. I opened the door. Inside was an office. Small. A metal desk. A swivel chair. A filing cabinet in the corner. A calendar on the wall. But the year was blank. The overhead light came on automatically when I entered. The same buzzing fluorescent as the hallway, but dimmer, like the bulb was old and no one had replaced it. On the desk was a logbook, identical to the one I kept in the basement. Same black cover, same ruled pages, same size, same weight. I opened it. The handwriting was mine. I know my own handwriting. I know the way I make my sevens, the way my letters slant slightly to the left, the way I press too hard on the pen so the ink bleeds through to the next page. This was my handwriting. Every entry, every line, every word. But the dates were wrong. The first entry was dated 15 years ago, 3 years before I started working at the Kessler building. The last entry was dated tonight. And every single entry, hundreds of them, page after page after page, said the same thing. Discovered floor 14. Investigated. Returned to ground level. No memory of visit upon return. No memory of visit upon return. I read it again. And again. I flipped through the pages. 50, 100, 200 entries. All in my handwriting. All describing the same discovery. All ending with the same sentence. Each one written on a different night, over a span of 15 years. Each one apparently forgotten by the next morning. I had been here before. Not once. Not twice. Hundreds of times. I had stood in this office, read this logbook, seen my own name on the door. And every single time, I had gone back downstairs and forgotten everything. Woken up the next morning with no memory of floor 14. Gone to work the next night and done it all again. The filing cabinet was full of tapes. Small black cassettes, dozens of them, each labeled with a date in my handwriting. I pulled one out from 3 years ago, a random Tuesday, and found a small monitor on the desk that I hadn't noticed before. An old one, built into the desk, with a slot for the tape. I pressed play. It was me, on the screen, in this office, sitting in this chair. The version of me on the tape looked tired. Older, somehow, even though the date was only 3 years ago. He was holding the logbook, this logbook, and reading from it with an expression I recognized. The expression of a man who has just learned something that doesn't fit into his understanding of the world and is trying very hard to make it fit anyway. He looked up, directly into the camera, directly at me, and he spoke. "You won't remember this tomorrow. You never do. I've recorded this 47 times, and you've watched it 47 times, and every morning you walk out of here and it's gone." He paused on the tape, rubbed his eyes. "But you need to know the truth, David, and maybe this time it'll stick." He leaned forward. "You're not visiting this floor. You live here. You've always lived here. The 12 hours you think you spent at home, sleeping, eating, driving, living your life, those aren't real. Those are the dream. The elevator takes you down to the lobby every morning and your mind fills in the rest. A drive home, an apartment, a bed, a life, but none of it's real. This is the only floor that exists for you. This office, this hallway, this building." He pointed at the logbook. "Every entry says, 'No memory of visit upon return.' But it's not a visit, David. It's never been a visit. The elevator doesn't take you to floor 14. Floor 14 is where you already are. The elevator takes you away from it for a few hours, lets you believe you live somewhere else, lets you believe you have a home and a morning and a life outside these walls. And then it brings you back. Every night, the same discovery, the same horror, the same forgetting." The tape ended. Static filled the screen. The monitor hummed. I turned around. The hallway outside the office was gone. Where the door had been, where I had walked in 5 minutes ago, there was now a wall. Solid, painted the same institutional beige as every wall in the building. No door frame, no handle, no seam, just a wall that had always been a wall, as if the hallway and the door and the entrance had never existed. The office had no exit, no windows, just 4 walls, a desk, a filing cabinet, a dead monitor, and a logbook full of my own handwriting telling me that I'd been trapped in this room hundreds of times before. The fluorescent light above me buzzed. The air was heavy and still and cold. And somewhere, deep in the part of my brain that files away things too disturbing to think about, I could feel something shifting. Not a memory exactly, more like the shadow of a memory, the ghost of a recognition. The feeling you get when you walk into a room you've never been in and know with absolute certainty, that you've stood in this exact spot before. I had been here. Not tonight, not for the first time. I had been here hundreds of times, and every time I'd sat down at this desk and opened this logbook and written the same words, and every time the elevator had come back for me and taken me down and wiped it all away like condensation from a mirror, I sat down at the desk. The chair fit me perfectly. The desk was the right height. The pen was in the exact spot where my hand naturally falls. Everything in this office was built for me, arranged for me, worn into shape by me over years and years of nights I couldn't remember. I opened the logbook to the next blank page. I picked up the pen, and I wrote today's date. I wrote what I'd found. I wrote about the diagnostic, the camera, the technician, the button. I wrote about the hallway and the door and my name on the nameplate. I wrote about the tape. And then, because I knew it was true, because somewhere beneath the panic I could feel the shape of a truth I discovered and lost 1,000 times, I wrote the last line. Discovered floor 14. Investigated. Returned to ground level. No memory of visit upon return. I put down the pen. The lights flickered. The wall behind me made a sound, a soft mechanical click like a lock releasing, and when I turned around, the wall was gone. In its place were elevator doors. Open. The car waiting, warm light spilling out of it like morning sunlight through a window. Inviting. Familiar. Safe. I stepped inside. I pressed the lobby button. The doors closed. And as the elevator descended, past 13, past 12, past all the floors I thought I knew, I could already feel it happening. The slipping, like sand through fingers. The office was getting blurry. The logbook was losing its weight in my memory. The tape. What tape? There was a monitor. Wasn't there? Or was that? The details were dissolving. Gently. Painlessly. Like waking from a dream where you know something important happened, but you can't quite hold on to what it was. By the time the doors opened on the ground floor, I felt fine. Normal. A little tired from the night shift, but fine. Good, even. I walked to the basement, picked up my bag, checked the log. Nothing unusual. Just the standard entries. Boiler, HVAC, elevator diagnostic. All normal. I closed the logbook, turned off the lights, and walked out into the morning. The sun was coming up. The air was cool and clean. I got in my car and drove home, already thinking about what I'd have for breakfast, already planning my evening, already looking forward to another quiet night in the building I knew so well, already forgetting. But somewhere, 14 floors above the ground, in a building with only 13, a light was still on. A logbook was still open to a page full of handwriting that no one would read until tonight. A chair was still warm from the person who had just been sitting in it, and a pen was lying on the desk, waiting for tonight. When I would come back, when the elevator would climb past 13, when the button would appear, when I would press it, the way I always press it, the way I've always pressed it, every night for 15 years, when I would discover it all over again, and forget it all over again. The elevator is patient. It has always been patient. It knows I'll be back. I always come back.